You're listening to the Hunt Suburbia podcast. I'm your host, Pat Guyette. Big bucks I've been dreaming often, every night till I'm in a coffin. Vermont woods to the burbs of Boston, I'm looking for a tree to get lost in. Crisp mornings, little dust in the snow. Quality time, just me and my bow. Fall evenings, I know just where to go for some quality times for me and my bow. It's just me and my bow. All right, this week it's just going to be me shooting from the hip here. What I want to do is go back and talk about the 6-pointer that I harvested late season here to tag out in Massachusetts. We'll talk about his whole story, and then I want to get into some stuff that you guys can start doing now. As a lot of people like to say, the 2021 season started on January 1st because there's a lot of prep work and things you can be doing now to prepare yourself for an awesome 2021. But first, I owe you guys the story from the 6-pointer that I harvested. He was an awesome buck. I had him on camera all year long. He was in multiple places, but he did have a very tight home range, and the same cameras were getting him, week after week. I ended up jumping him one time, going in to check a set of cameras. He was bedded down right behind some houses. Got a glimpse at him, and his rack looks really big from behind, as a lot of deer tend to. But he ran away. His body looked huge. I mean, that was earlier in the season. He ended up weighing 140 pounds, the same as my first buck, which, if I'm being honest, I thought they were going to be bigger than that in body weight size. And one of my goals for next year is going to be to shoot a bigger body deer, and I think it's just another year on the age class. But I was extremely happy with both those deer. Were the heaviest deer that I've harvested. Some people will like to say that, and I do too, like especially the late season buck, he'd ran off 20-30 pounds. He was a lot heavier earlier in the season. Still a great buck. I'm extremely happy with it. But so I had him on camera all year. He was just a really nice 6-pointer. There's something about a nice mature 6 with a heavy rack that's unique, and I can't wait to see him. I dropped him off at the taxidermist. I'm getting both of my bucks done this year. Just because it was 2020, it was a weird season. It was the season I started this podcast. It was the season my first son was born. And, obviously COVID happening. And they were both my biggest bucks to date. So I think having them next to each other on the wall is going to remind me of this year for a long time. So I got both of them coming back, and I can't wait to see them. And got to figure out where I'm going to put them, actually, in the house. But so the story of this buck, besides all the pictures and stuff, besides the sighting I got where I jumped him when I was heading in to check a camera, this is going to tie a lot into cell cameras and some of the advantages that those provide to us, and we're going to get into a little bit of a technology discussion. When does technology become too much? I just saw on Facebook today a picture of a new crossbow, and it said something. The headline was like, "This crossbow is going to revolutionize archery forever." Now, I'm not somebody that says anybody who shoots a crossbow is not an archer. I think they definitely are, and I think crossbows serve a great purpose, especially if you can't pull back a string. If you're older and it's getting harder to pull back a compound or a traditional bow, and you can't make an ethical shot, go back and listen to the Taylor Mitten podcast. I mean, if you legitimately can't, in Massachusetts, I'm saying, other states, Vermont, anybody can shoot a crossbow. It's up to you whether you want to or not. It's whatever you want to. We're all hunting at the end of the day. But this crossbow that they were showing in this article today, I mean, it does look pretty much like it's a gun. It's a gun. It doesn't have the arms that come out to the side. It's extremely compact. It's going to shoot that that bolt extremely fast. At some point, there is a line that gets crossed with technology, and it's going to be debated, and everybody's going to have a different opinion on it. But there is that line, and this story of this 6-pointer that I shot this year, it toes the line of whether I would like to shoot a deer like that again or not. So just being honest, let's talk about it. I have cameras all over the place. This year I put, I think, 25 cameras out, something like that. And they're in 5 different spots. I like to put 5 cameras or so into a zone that I want to hunt and try to dial in. So I've got about 5 different spots I'm scouting, but I put 1 camera out behind my house, down at the edge of my property, and it's a cell phone camera. I have another camera that isn't a cell phone camera that's up closer to just keep an eye on what's back there, what's moving, and when it's moving. So I figured, hey, it'll be fun, cell phone camera. It's a 2-minute delay. If I get pictures, maybe I can sneak out there sometime and get into a position to get a kill because of the camera. And that's what happened. I mean, I was not planning on hunting this day at all. Well, actually, let me back up before I get into the actual day that I killed that deer. A few days earlier, my cell phone camera triggered, and this buck was on it. And I was like, oh, wow. And it was another day that I wasn't going to hunt the evening, but it triggered. There's about an hour of daylight left or something. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go get my stuff on. I might as well sneak out there and see if this will create an opportunity. It was a very windy day that day. And this is 3 days before I end up killing this deer. So I sneak out, get all my stuff on, get my bow, sneak out, and I'm looking at where the camera was and where that buck was about 7 or 8 minutes earlier. I wasn't extremely fast on this one. On this particular day, it took me about 7 or 8 minutes to get out there after I got the picture. I didn't see him anywhere, so I climbed up into my stand. Took my time getting out there, slowly crept in, looked at where he was standing and where the camera is. Didn't see him, so I got up into my stand. While I'm in my stand, about 8 or 9 minutes after, maybe 10 that I was sitting there, my cell camera triggers again, and I get a text, and it's that buck, and he's still standing in front of that camera. He must have been behind some trees, or I don't know. He was pretty well camouflaged because I didn't see him going in, but he was there the whole time. Now the camera is like, I don't know, 75, 80 yards away from my ladder stand there. But I can see him there, and put the binoculars up, and he's just feeding, and it's really windy. And I knew he wasn't going to come in. Just the way he was standing there feeding in front of there, I knew he wasn't going to come to my stand. So I decide, I got 45 minutes, I think, at this point when I decided to get down and put a stalk on this buck. So I get down. The wind was covering any noise that I was making, and it was blowing in my face, so he wasn't going to detect me that way. The only way he was going to see me was movement. He was going to get alerted by movement, and that was it. So I made sure to keep an eye on him as I was trying to close the distance and keeping trees and anything in between us that I could. And as a deer feeds, and I know many of you will already know this, but some might not, a deer's going to, as he feeds, he's going to go down, put his head down, put her head down. They're going to eat for, 3 to 4 seconds, up to 10 seconds maybe, and then their head's going to pop up, and they look all around them. They'll look to the left, to the right, kind of turn around, but left to right, and then head back down. 3 seconds, 4 seconds, pop back up sometimes. Look, so as I'm trying to close the distance there, I'm keeping, close eye on that. When his head goes down, that's when I'm moving. And I'm taking, 3 or 4 steps, very carefully, very quietly. I end up closing the distance to about, 35 yards, and at that point, he's just slowly making his way away from me and getting over onto the abutting property that is posted and no permission to hunt, and there's a rock wall there that separates the huntable property from the posted property, and he leaps over that rock wall. I keep closing the distance just for fun. I don't think he's going to come back, and it's getting pretty dark at this point. And I get to 25 yards. A couple times he's looking right at me. You think, I might be caught, might be spotted. And that's when I like to get into complete stealth mode and practice how still I can be. So we had some cool standoffs that way. I got a real good look at his rack. And basically just, I ended up getting a little bit of film on there. It's on my Instagram. You'll see a couple slides before the one where you see him laying dead. You see him on the other side of the rock wall there. And it was cool, just a cool experience. And I went back in at dark, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, that was cool. That was fun. It provided some intel, and I got out there and I was able to put a nice stock on a nice buck. And that's why we want to hunt, so that we're entertained and we get the adrenaline rush. And that happened. I didn't get a kill, and I thought to myself, how would I have felt if I did get that kill? Would I feel like it was cheapened in any way because I got the intel from the cell cam? And I didn't answer that, and I still can't really answer that. But I did think about it quite a bit, and I was like, you know what? I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't get him. I still had that big 9-pointer that I really want to harvest over in my other spot. He was my target. So good. I left that night feeling really good. Had a fun stalk. Didn't get the kill, and I was saying to myself, he's only a 6-pointer. He'll be better next year. But, man, it really was a pretty impressive rack. So a few days go by, and, I hunted a lot this year. It's late season at this point. It's muzzleloader. I've gone into my other spot with the muzzleloader a couple of times, hoping to see that big 9-pointer. I passed on does with the muzzleloader. I saw a lot of deer, but never saw that 9. And, I'm getting to the point now where even my patience is wearing a little bit thin. A lot of early mornings, a lot of hard work into the season, and I am just getting a little bit exhausted. And I'm, it's a Saturday, which is when I do a lot of the editing for these podcasts. Last minute, just procrastinating. And I like to edit on Saturday mornings. And this is a morning, my wife was going to go grocery shopping and Christmas shopping with her mom, and I'm going to be on baby duty, and I'm totally cool with that. Love to spend time with them. And it's pouring rain, and it's going to turn into a snowstorm, and it's windy, and I was not planning on hunting this Saturday at all. Had to take care of this podcast editing, and going to spend some time with the little man. And then all of a sudden, while I'm editing the podcast, I get a picture, same camera, being tripped, and in the pouring rain, I don't get very many pictures, or if I do, it's a false trip, and it's it's rain or wind or something. But I got one, and I looked at it, and it was does, sprinting through there with their tails up, spooked by something. And so I thought to myself, I'm like, there's does going through there at full speed. It could be a couple of things. Could be some humans pushed them. Maybe someone's walking their dog. But that's not going to be the case in the middle of a downpour with some wind. So it's probably a buck pushing those does through. That's what I think. And I saved the podcast. I stop editing. I tell my wife, hey, I just got some does running through. I think there is a good chance there's a buck following those does. I'm going to sneak out there real quick. It's not going to take me any more than 20, 30 minutes. Let me just go give it a check. Everything was all good. That's what I did. Put on my stuff real quick, grabbed my bow out of the shed, and, there was not any better. You couldn't have any better conditions to stalk in somewhere than this day. Completely silent. There was a light fog, even concealing your movement even a little bit better, and they couldn't hear anything. So I'm slowly making my way in there. As I am, I see 4 white tails that all looked like does. Tails flags up. They're running down the hill. 100 yards away from me, 150. They're running down the hill. And I'm thinking, there's no way I spooked them, because I was taking real good care to get in there silently and looking all around for deer, and I was putting a real nice stalk on. And I mean, come on, I was silent. I was invisible, and I knew I didn't kick those deer up. So I was like, all right, maybe there is a buck already in the area. He just pushed them down the hill further, and I make my way down, kind of mid-property, a little lower side of the property, and stand behind a big tree, the biggest tree that I can. And I'm using intel from other podcasts and things that I learned this year and things I've learned over 23 years of hunting. I find a big tree, and I decide to lean my bow up against that tree, and I'm just going to stand there and wait for something to happen. Well, 3 minutes after standing there, I see movement off to my right, and I kind of peek around this big tree to the right side of it, and I see this deer coming in. It's a tiny, tiny deer. It's a doe, and she's just slowly coming in and feeding, eating buds here and there and nibbling on stuff and just taking her time. And she gave me a lot of time to think about it, and I was putting all the story together. I mean, if 4 does took off and she's not part of that doe group right now for whatever reason, those 4 does have already been bred, or some of them have been bred, the other ones aren't in heat, and she is in heat, this new one. And that's why she didn't run with that doe group. She's got to have a buck with her, and the buck is keeping her separate and shadowing her. So I'm thinking this the whole time, keeping an eye on her to the right side of this big tree. And she's slowly coming in, and I'm thinking to myself, I have a doe tag. If there is no buck with her, maybe I'll harvest her, but generally I don't try to harvest a fawn. I don't care if someone listening likes to. They really are delicious. Last year, my first what I thought was a doe that I harvested was a button buck, which I hate. Shooting a button buck too. He's a potential. Who knows what he could have turned into, but thought it was a doe. It was a button buck, but that deer was delicious. I just ate the tenderloins for him last night. Found him in the bottom of the freezer. Man, is that good. So I'm sitting there thinking, debating, just kind of having a conversation with myself, keeping an eye on this doe. She gets to about 25 yards, and the whole time she's kind of quartering to me and closing the distance, and I'm looking around this tree to the right side. I'm shimmying my body to the left side of the tree to keep the most cover that I can from that tree between me and her. I should have been looking to the left side of the tree and kind of behind me over my left shoulder as I'm doing that, but I didn't until I saw her stop and look exactly in that direction. So it snapped me into focus, and I was like, all right, she's looking right there. Got to do the old slow head turn, sloth movement, head turn to the left, and probably going to see a buck there. So I do that. And sure enough, here's this buck. He's coming in. He's 35 yards or so, and he's just kind of coming in right at me, like facing me, but doesn't see me. I'm not in camo or anything. I'm in, my green and black checkered shirt with the Big Woods Bucks logo on it and the fleece. That's all I'm wearing. Wearing green wool pants. Now, I was behind a really great tree with cover, and there was also a downed oak tree not too far from there that provided some nice breakup and some cover. So he's coming in at me. He doesn't see me. But now my focus is off of this doe, and it's just completely on him. Now, I try to keep track of the doe with, my peripheral vision just in case, this buck's going to give me a shooting opportunity. Those does will ruin your opportunities a lot, especially if you're on the ground. But I couldn't. He was just coming at me, 35 yards, and I look at him, just nice rack. Same deer as a couple of days before, and I make the decision. I'm like, all right, he gives me a shooting opportunity. I'm going to try to end my season right here because this is a cool story. We'll be able to talk about it, debate, sell camera, all that stuff. If he gives me the opportunity, I'm going to take it. So because he was looking right at me, coming right at me, I'm on the ground. I'm extra cautious to make any sudden movements. I think that if I try to reach in and take out my rangefinder to get the exact range, then I'm going to blow the opportunity. Now, I practiced a lot throughout the summer. I shot at a deer target. It's a full-size deer. Looks like this buck, a little bigger rack on the target. But I visualize, me shooting into that target in my backyard. And, I love to shoot at 30. Like 30 is my favorite distance to shoot at that target. And to me, it looked like he was going to be 30 yards. So, if he turned where he currently was, he was going to be 30 yards. That's what I said. And I was confident in that. And he did turn, and I was able to pull back, get my draw, get a shot off. He was perfect broadside. And I see the arrow just go right under his belly. Right under his belly. Absolutely no chance it hit him. I saw it go right under his belly. He then took a bound back a few yards. You'll see, if you've taken a shot like that, you know what I'm talking about. Just a quick bound back, and he's trying to figure out what happened. He's still broadside, and he's looking right at me. And, I'm just like, damn it, how did I miss him? It was a good shot. It was a good shot opportunity. I'm not disappointed in taking that shot, but I really do wish I had the exact yardage correct. But that's something you can practice in the off season, is guessing yardages and practice on a target. But you don't want to do that. If you can help it, you can get your rangefinder out. You want to do it every single time. In the heat of this moment, I didn't have time to do that. Or I didn't think that I could do it without him spooking. So he's standing there now. He's probably about, 38, 39 yards at this point. I ended up range finding it later. He was 36 yards, and I had him on 30, and I was shooting on the ground, shooting a little mid body, lower third, trying to double lung him, and it went under his belly. So he's standing there now. He's looking right at me, broadside. Once he realizes, that there's something not right over there, and it looks more like a threat, he postures up. He turns and broadside, chest right at me, and then he looked at me like that for 7 straight minutes. And I'm on one knee. I'm down on one knee next to this big tree. And for 7 straight minutes, he postures up and stares at me. And in the first minute of that, I decided, well, I can't shoot at him again without an arrow in there, so I've got to try to get in my quiver and put another arrow on. Maybe he's going to spook there, but I have to do it. It's the only option. So I very slowly grabbed an arrow out of my quiver as he's staring right at me, 38, 39 yards. Put the arrow into the quiver, out of the quiver, knocked it, and put the release back on. And later I had to take the release back off, but had the release on, ready to go. He's staring at me. He didn't spook, which was awesome. So I, 7 minutes, staring at me. I'm ready to go again. At this point, I know that he was further away because the first arrow went under him. But still, I want to try to get a range on him. So after 7 minutes, his concentration on me breaks, and he turns and looks the other way, behind him. Whenever they do that, you've got a second, 2, maybe 3, to do any movement that you have to get done. So he turned and did that, and I had reached into my pocket and pulled out my rangefinder while he did that. He turned back, looked right at me again for another 15, 20 seconds. Then I saw what I love to see anytime you have these stare downs is his ears kind of turned back one last time and did a 360, listening all around him, and then you see his tail just start wagging, flicking. He let his guard down, and he starts then he turns broadside again and starts walking in the direction he was, away from me to my left. While he does that, he gets behind a small tree. It's not a big, if it was a bigger tree, I probably would have rangefinded and drew. This was a small tree, and I said, while he's behind that, I'm going to quickly rangefind it. I rangefinded the tree, and it was at 36 yards. So now I know exactly what the distance he's at. He stops behind that tree for a second. Something happens, and he turns around completely and starts heading back the way he was coming from. Now, if I had to guess, I bet the doe was watching me from behind the whole time, and maybe she started going that way a little bit. I actually never end up seeing her again. But that had to be the case because he's not letting her go. So he starts going that way again. He gets back to the original spot where I took my first shot, and I know it's about 35, 36 yards now because I rangefinded him just a minute before. So I pull back, and he stops there. I let an arrow go, and it looks like it's a perfect shot, mid-body, right where I aimed. He's quartering away at this point, and he runs away with the arrow still in him, and he doesn't look good. He runs. He only runs for 4 or 5 seconds, and then I see him kind of walking up this berm, and I keep track on where he was walking. And the last spot that I see him cross that berm and down over it. And that's it. I didn't see him shed the arrow. I just saw him get up, walk up over that berm, and I retreated into the house, adrenaline pumping. Let the wife know that, sorry, it's not the 20, 30 minutes I said it was going to be. I need an hour, maybe 2 more hours. I got to find this deer. There's a rainstorm coming in. It's going to turn to snow. She was totally cool with that. Gather myself inside. I start thinking, like, how long should I wait? Because I'd never shot a deer with that ran away with the arrow still in him before, so I didn't know what to expect. Talked to a bunch of people. The general consensus is let him lay there. Give it hours if you can. There's no harm in that, but there was a little harm in it because it was in the middle of a downpour. It was pouring rain when I shot him, and it was going to continue to pour rain until it turns to snow. So I didn't want any blood to, be wiped away for the track. I really didn't. And I'm in a pretty suburban area here. You don't want them dying in somebody's backyard that, doesn't want you hunting or doesn't understand hunting or won't let you recover the buck. So all that stuff taken into consideration, I only spent 25 minutes in the house gathering myself, and I went back out and went to where I shot. I found the first arrow that had missed. It was stuck in a log, the fallen log, a small one that was on the ground, stuck there. I didn't see any blood at the spot that I had shot him, but I just started walking where he went, and I didn't see any blood on that walk at all until I came to my arrow, which he shed, and looked at the arrow. About 18 inches, there was great penetration, 18 inches of blood. It was dark red blood, not lung blood. There was no bubbles in it, so I knew it wasn't a lung shot, and I started to get nervous because the dark red blood, liver, it's probably a liver shot, and you're supposed to wait 4 hours. Everything you hear and you read, it's 4 hours for a liver shot, and here I am at this point, 30 minutes or so after I shoot him, and I'm feeling like, well, it's my only option. I got to go find him. I also looked down at the arrow, and it looked like the blades hadn't opened because they were, I used an expandable broadhead, Grim Reapers, and they were back in the original fixed position. But later on, I found out that, that's what happens sometimes when a deer sheds that arrow, those broadheads will close back up, and that is what happened. So that's it. I see the blood on the arrow. I got 18 inches of penetration, and I'm looking for more blood, and I really don't find. I found a couple of drops after the shed arrow on my way to that berm that I saw him cross. I found a couple drops, and then once I got up on that berm, I didn't see blood at all the rest of the way. I just had to slowly keep making my way in to where I thought the deer would have walked, and the path of least resistance. An injured deer is they're in escape mode, and when you're in escape mode, you run to the open areas so that you're not trying not to crash into stuff. So I just walked the path of least resistance and filmed it a little bit. It's on the YouTube page, The Recovery. I'm getting down into the swampy area, cross a little stream bed, and just continue walking that way. And he was only, 20 yards from that berm, laying there dead. And I was just very excited about it. Walked up. You guys can watch The Recovery on the YouTube page, but that's it. I mean, he was dead there. I closed my season out on buck tags with a mature, really nice 6 that I made the decision to shoot and that I am happy with and will be happy with forever. And then the only thing that, is that I'm going to debate for a while, how much did the technology come into play? How much did that cell cam play a role in the harvest? And you can't say that it didn't. It definitely did. I was not going to hunt that day. It provided me with some intel that allowed me to go out there and try to make something happen. Now, beyond that, a lot of things had to go right. A lot of things went wrong as well. Like I missed that first time, but so many things had to line up. I still had to do 20 things correctly in order to get that buck. I had to get in there quietly and stealthily. I had to make the right decision to get behind a big tree to get myself some cover in case a buck did come in. I had to conceal myself from this doe that was making her way in pretty quickly. I had to not let her see me. I had to guess the distance on that buck correctly for the first shot, which I didn't, but I could have ended it right there, but that was one thing that went wrong. I think kneeling was a big thing. The fact that when that doe was coming in and I took a knee rather than staying standing, I think that was huge. The decision to reload that arrow early on after the miss and do it slowly. Any herky-jerky movements, I would have been done. So all of these things, and then there's a million more, and I can keep going through them, but I think at the end of the day, yes, this cell phone camera is a technology that really can help you kill a deer. Do I think it was a fair chase? Yeah, it was a fair chase. I was on the ground. That buck had many opportunities to get me. He had many opportunities to get out of there. He gave me an opportunity. He stayed there too long. He let his guard down. He let me kill him that day. It was a fair chase, but I will listen to anybody's argument that says the other side, that it isn't a fair chase. There's an argument to be made there. And I think it's a debate that's going to happen for a long time. And I think I would be completely fine with some laws coming into place that, put some time limits on those things, or, you can get in there and change the settings, maybe making sure that anybody who has a cell camera has to put a longer delay on it. I'm cool with that, man. I like hunting as much as the next guy. I like the scouting process. This is something that's completely new this year. If it went away, I wouldn't be terribly angry about it. But, either way, it was completely legal. It was a lot of fun. If it's completely legal for the foreseeable future, I will continue to, use the technology to my advantage that will allow me to get into a position to harvest a deer, a buck, a doe, whatever. Now, I wouldn't want to kill every single deer that way. If that was the only way I could kill a deer and I relied on that all the time, that would get boring and old, but it's nice to have it for now, to provide an opportunity to get you the intel. I mean, that's not going to happen every year, every decade, probably. I bet you that scenario, if I kept that camera in the same tree for the next 10 years, I'll bet you I could not replicate what happened. So that's that side of the story. I hope you guys take something away from that. I hope you liked it. And I'd love to, hear in the comments. If you're listening on YouTube, throw some comments in there. Go on my Instagram. Let's debate this topic. I'm happy to have that conversation. But again, I didn't do anything wrong, and I love that deer. That was an experience I'll never forget. And we'll just leave it at that. And second half of this podcast, I want to go through, what you can do now. Here we are in January. The season for 2021 is starting now. A lot of prep work we can get into. So we'll go into, what you can be doing to prep in the off season, and then some goals for 2021. So we'll see you after the break. All right, just want to take a quick break and remind everybody that's listening, please, if you haven't, go on to iTunes or the podcast app, anywhere that you can leave a review on the podcast. iTunes and the Apple Podcast app are the best places to do so, because it really helps in the rankings. Go in there, leave a written review, tap on the 5-star rating. It's going to help us a lot in shooting up the rankings and getting this podcast out to more people, and I would really greatly appreciate that. Go and subscribe on our YouTube page if you haven't yet. It's Hunt Suburbia, youtube.com/Hunt Suburbia. Of course, follow us on all of our social medias. Continue to interact with us. And if you have any questions or anything you want to send me, shoot me an email at huntsuburbia@gmail.com. Really appreciate you guys. All right, we're back. We're going to go over some things that you can start doing postseason, which is now. And it's kind of early preseason, but postseason prep work, things that you can do to stay engaged with whitetails all year long. If you want to, if you're addicted to them like I am, and you want to check in once a week and see what they're doing, here's some things that you can do now that will help you. I would keep some of your cameras running all year. If you've got cell cams and stuff, like, wait until all your deer are bald and you don't see any racks anymore. Then that's a good time to get out and start shed hunting. But I would cancel or postpone those monthly, fees for the cell cameras until you get back into September or something like that. That's what I'm going to do this year. But I am going to keep them going so I can, I hope to get a glimpse of my big buck. I still haven't seen him. There's one buck that had shed early that looked a big body and looked like it could have been him. I just won't know for sure until I find some sheds. But keep your cameras running because they can give you intel on when the bucks are dropping. They'll give you a good start time to get out there and look for sheds. It's kind of cool. Even after they've shed, you'll see, if you keep them up on a scrape, you'll see that those deer use those scrapes all year to leave scent. They really do. It's a callback to Chad Whitcomb's podcast, all about scents and everything. I started using his scents in like December, so late, and I was freshening a lot of scrapes up and doing everything he said, using a stick to, rather than your boot to freshen the scrape, use a stick to apply the scent on the licking branches. I will tell you, there's tons of deer hitting those scrapes even now. I got a big buck, my Austin buck, named after my son. That's the buck that I saw the day before he was born. I went for a walk to check some cameras and had a very close encounter with this buck. And at the time, he was probably the biggest buck I'd ever seen in the woods. He's a nice, big 8-pointer, probably 130 inches or so. I started seeing him come back. He was a ghost all deer season. I didn't get one sight of him while hunting. And then he came back in December once I started putting scents on those scrapes. So I don't know where he was hiding all deer season, but he's hammering scrapes still. January, I think it was January 10th, he was freshening up a scrape, and still had his headgear on, and he's looking good. I can't wait to see what he's going to look like next year. But it's nice to keep some cameras going all year long because you'll be able to watch those scrapes. But if you want to save batteries and stuff, after they've dropped all their antlers, take them down and put them back up in August or September. But for me, last year I had a lot of fun with my cameras. I had them up starting in April, and you already have bucks. As soon as they drop their antlers, they're starting to grow them again and regenerate. So you can, if you're into watching them grow over the summer and keeping tabs on them all summer, it's something fun to do. But cancel those cell cam memberships, throughout the summer. You don't really need them. If you're going out and looking for sheds early, like I started after I saw that one buck had dropped them and thought he might be my big target, I went out, just not full days or anything, just for an hour and a half at a time, just peruse the area and seeing if you could stumble on those big sheds. I'm sure maybe 20% of the bucks have shed at this point, but that's the only one I've seen on camera, and 9 or 10 others all still with headgear, but I'd bet probably 20% have shed off by now. So if you're going out early, don't expect to be seeing a ton of sheds right now. And also I would caution against going out early if you're pushing through an area that has a lot of bucks. You can bump them out of there now. You can apply a lot of undue stress on them. So that's why I'm trying not to do too much early shed hunting. Just pop it in for an hour into a different spot here and there, taking my time, not running through. I'm still kind of hunting, like I'm still hunting, and going through quietly. I actually went back into that spot where the big one had shed in late December. I was back in there last week and just creeping up to a camera I put up there. I had Chad's Sense on a scrape there, and I take my time going into this spot because I jump deer a lot. And I got to my camera and was looking out, and I see what looks like a pretty good buck staring at me. But you know how you can second guess yourselves? You're like, that can't be a deer in there. That's not a buck. That's just those are some sticks, and they just look like antlers, and my eyes are playing tricks on me. So that's what I thought, because I stayed still and I looked in that direction for a few minutes without moving, and that deer didn't move either. So I was like, yeah, it's got to be. It can't be a buck. So I just started looking at my camera, checking the photos, and I looked back up, and I didn't see the antlers anymore. So I knew it was something, and it wasn't in the same exact position as the last time I saw it. So I looked up, and I saw he laid down. He was standing up at the time looking at me, but he laid down, and he was just licking his hind quarter in his bed. And then I saw more movement, and it was that turned out to be a bigger buck in there. So and then I saw more movement. So there were 3 bucks there as I went to go check my camera and do a quick perusal for a shed on the way in. 3 bucks in there, all really nice size racks, and all still holding. So I know, and they were all bedded down in some thick stuff. So I know I'm going to go back in there and check in a couple weeks. I'll probably wait till February and head in there and check. But if you're going out early, a couple people have told me while you're out there, just cover a lot of ground and mark feeding areas, because you're going to find a lot of sheds in the feeding area. So mark where you see they've been digging and pawing up for some acorns that have been buried under leaves. Mark all those acorn spots anywhere you see a bunch of pawing happening. If you got some down trees, down oak trees are good spots to look around and check if they've been feeding on those down oak trees and the acorns that come with it. And just mark them in your Onyx and go back and check them in February and March, because those will be a good starting point to find some sheds. So there you go with that. And then if you have snow, which is the best part about postseason scouting, is when there's snow on the ground. We don't have any snow on the ground right now where I am, but so when you get it, it's a great tool to teach you lots of stuff. So get out there when there's snow. Doesn't matter if it's fresh snow. I do like getting out in the fresh snow because you can actually pretend like you're tracking a buck in fresh snow. You know that the track's going to be new, and or if you want to just go out and see trails and all the main trails that deer are using, and you can wait a week after the snow if you still got it. Get out there after a week. You'll have a lot of tracks laid down, and you'll be able to pick out the best trails, the ones that are used the most. And some people will say that, it don't matter. Those trails that you're walking now that you see in the snow aren't the same ones as, if you're hunting rut or you're hunting in October. But I don't really believe that. I think deer are going to use the same trails the entire year unless there's like extenuating circumstances. If there's 2 feet of snow or something, and then they get into the mode where they feel like they got to go yard up for the winter, go find a thick evergreen patch, and then you might see them change up their trails. They might all use the same one at that point because it's easier to walk. But I think generally that they're all going to be whatever you see as the heavy used deer trails in the snow that's going to be a great spot to key in on during the hunting season. So especially if you see 2 heavily used trails crisscrossing. Now you're at a major intersection, and then that will be a great spot. And the more sign you see around that intersection, the better that spot's going to be. So if there's also like a scrape there, or you see an old rub line there, or you see some great feed there, then you got a really nice spot to mark in your Onyx and scout with cameras and try to target that next year as a spot to sit. Then you just got to think about how you're going to get in there without spooking deer on the way in. Then I also recommend, so now you can go and get your bow tuned. For me, my peep sight is kind of fraying out, so I'm gonna have to go get that fixed. Maybe get a new string, wax the strings up a little bit, and then practice. You got to keep practicing with your bow. Practice all off season. Shoot at least once a week, and just make sure not to get too rusty over the season, over the off season rather. And then test out new gear. If you there's some things that you're thinking about doing. Like for me, saddle hunting I want to get into in 2021. I plan on testing some saddles in the off season here. Also, like, I've never hung a hang-on stand. I've used my entire bow hunting career. I've used climbers, and the one ladder stand that I have, and that's all I've used. So I've never even hung a hang-on, and I've got 4 of them that I purchased mid-season last year. Got a good deal from someone moving out of state, so I went and purchased 4. I've got those, and I'm going to be testing those in my backyard, figuring out how to hang them. And being safe with them and all that. So test out any new gear that you're thinking about using in 2021. And then if you like it, you've got all summer to practice with it and get comfortable. What else? In the off season, it doesn't always have to be all about deer hunting. Turkey hunting is very popular. I know that. I'm going to be getting into it this year. TJ is going to take me along down in Zone 11 and show me the ropes on hunting these Massachusetts turkeys. I've gone to Vermont a few times and hunted with some friends for turkeys. It's fun. It's not the same as whitetail for me. I'm not going to get super excited about it. We'll see. Maybe that changes after this season, but get out there and turkey hunt. I know you guys like it. Fishing, that's my favorite thing to do in the summer. I love fishing. So I'll be out, going up to Lake Champlain, my favorite lake in the world, fishing. Mainly, I like fishing bass, smallmouth bass, largemouth bass, and northern pike. They're my favorites. They're very accessible. You can get in a kayak, and you can fish trout in a kayak too, but super accessible. Get into the coves, have some fun. So I'm looking forward to doing a lot of fishing this summer. And then also, cook, man. Enjoy your harvests. Anybody who got deer this year, you've got tons of meat now. I've got a lot of meat, and I've already gone through quite a bit because I've been cooking a lot more. But trying new recipes out and experimenting with your meat now that you work so hard to get. So, get online, just search for some game recipes. I know bowsite.com, Massachusetts Forum, they've got a game recipe thread there that's got a bunch of different stuff. Meat Eater cookbook is out there. I've got that as a gift in the past. So just experiment with your harvest and have fun and enjoy cooking. I really love cooking venison because I get to share, what I work so hard for with other people. And it's really a delicacy for people who are not hunters and aren't used to that taste. So I really enjoy sharing the harvest and cooking it myself. So do some of that and try to live a summer outdoors this summer. Even with COVID, just put on your mask. If you got to wear a mask, put on your mask, but get outside and enjoy it. We can't stay inside for another whole summer. So that's my advice for what you can do in the off-season prep work. I'm sure there's a million other things that I didn't touch on, but that's a good start. And then real quickly, my goals for 2021, for the 2021 season. So I want to get an early season doe this year. Last year I passed on a lot of doe. I probably had 20 to 25 different shot opportunities on doe, within 20 to 25 yards. And I passed them all. So I ate my zone 10 tag. And I don't want to do that for many reasons, but next year I'm going to take a doe. I want to take a doe early. I want to get one in October, first couple of weeks of the season, get the freezer stocked back up, and take care of that early season doe. So that's going to be a big goal. Then the Austin buck, which I talked about just a few minutes ago, named after my son because I had that awesome encounter with him the day before my son was born. And I just started seeing him on my cameras again. He's around. He's going to be bigger next year. Hopefully he's like a 10, 9 or a 10, or he gets a lot bigger and his tine length. I'd love to get the Austin buck next year. He was my goal this year, and I never saw him. Next year he's going to be even bigger. It's going to be fun to watch him grow, and that's one of my goals. And also the Big 9, which I hope is still alive, and I don't have a nickname for him yet, but if I can get the Austin buck and the Big 9 next year and an early season doe, I would be super happy. So that's those are my goals for deer. Other than that, like maybe just 8 points, 8 points or better next year. If I see a big 6 like I did this year again, I'll probably let him go and see if he can turn into an 8 the next year. But I want to get 2 8s or better, and preferably that Austin buck and the Big 9 as my two main goals. I want to get a turkey this year. I want to improve my filming setup a little bit. The iPhone's great, but the zoom capabilities are limited on it. I want to get some better footage up close. So hopefully I'll be improving my filming setup. Other goals, like obviously just bring an episode every single week for you guys. I'm going to get a saddle and hunt from that in 2021 some of the time. So that's a goal. I got to figure out what kind of saddle I'm going to get and do a lot of practicing with it. But I do want to add that to the repertoire in 2021. And then, I just want to continue to help mentor people, provide valuable info to you guys, and continue to grow this podcast, bring some great interviews. I'm going to I'll probably figure out how to do some Zoom podcasts so I can get people, without having to travel every week to do it or have people come to my house. I do think those podcasts are great when it's face-to-face, but I do want to open up the options for doing it over video. And that also adds the added bonus of having the video content that I can put up on YouTube. If you watch like Joe Rogan or any other podcasts on YouTube, a lot of the time it's a video stream too. People seem to enjoy that, so maybe I'll work that out this year in 2021. And finally, I want to get some merch available for you guys. Just basic stuff: t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and put that out. And that's it. Those are the 2021 goals. That's a lot. And we'll check back in at the end of 2021, see what I was able to hit from that list there, and hopefully I've got those 2 big bucks down. That would be amazing, huh? So that's it. That's it for this episode. Next week we'll be back with another guest. Thanks for listening to the Hunt Suburbia podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. We're going to release an episode every single Sunday throughout the season, throughout the entire year, and we will possibly be releasing some bonus episodes here and there throughout the week as people, come in freshly off a bow kill and tell their stories. We hope that happens throughout the season. There might be weeks where you get 2 or 3 bonus episodes. You might not get one for a couple of weeks, but there will be some bonus episodes. But you can count on us every single Sunday to have a new interview on throughout the season. Once again, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. Big bucks I've been dreaming often, every night till I'm in a coffin. Vermont woods to the burbs of Boston, I'm looking for a tree to get lost in. Crisp mornings, little dust in the snow. Quality time, just me and my bow. Fall evenings, I know just where to go for some quality times for me and my bow. It's just me and my